In the English, pace is 11:29 and 11:30, which by the time you get there, you're getting near the end of the third level. You will need to be reading the book in his steps. And it mentions that at the very beginning of pace 11:29, but I want to encourage you to, as soon as you get to pace 11:29, start reading this. It will give you some points along the bottom of the pages of keeping up with it. There'll be some questions to answer, but set yourself, as part of your goals, maybe to read a certain number of pages each day to keep up with this. Then when you get to, and this is really near the beginning of pace 11:30 on page 4, it doesn't stand out too much, but I want to kind of point this out to you on page 4, what's coming. It says, writing stories provides the opportunity to use your imagination. Choose one of the following themes that you will use to develop into a story. You are not expected to write a complete novel, but the length should be sufficient to develop the plot. All right, so in some of the earlier paces, you wrote some essays. You've written different types of paragraphs. So this is writing a story. It's kind of like writing a novel. In His Steps is a full novel. And so here's one. Write a story about the results of Jasper Chase's decision to abandon his pledge, and then they give you some questions to think about if you wanted to write that as your theme. Here on page 5, it says develop a story around the little girl of the deceased young man. She's mentioned only in chapters 1 and 2. Here are some questions your story would need to address. So think about that. So there's two possibilities. If there's some other angle that you want, some other character or part of the story that you want to kind of pull out. So basically you're writing something related to something that you read about in this book. Some of the same characters perhaps will be involved, some of the same setting, but maybe you come at it from a different angle, maybe somebody else's perspective and point of view. So just think about that. As you go then through the next few pages, they have you thinking about what is going to be the theme for your story, the conflict, who are the characters, the setting, the point of view. And then you write a beginning, just a couple paragraphs to get you started. And then again here, list how you're going to introduce your main characters, who they are. But here's the big one. You get to page 8, and it says, now, on separate paper, write a rough draft of your story. Use vivid imagination to describe the characters and setting. And be careful to exalt the Lord in your writing. After you've completed the rough draft, ask your supervisor to read the story. This should be 600 to 1,000 words. So, usually a typewritten page is about 250 words. So we're talking a good, 2.5 to 4 page, double-spaced typed story, okay? I actually had a girl a few years ago who hated all the writing assignments that she had in the paces, all the way through junior high, all the way up to this point. When she got to this, all of a sudden she enjoyed it, and she ended up writing a 10-page paper and had a lot of action and characters and a lot involved. It was very interesting to read. You don't have to do it that long, okay? 2.5 to 4 pages is probably sufficient. And then have your supervisor check the rough draft. Again, if you've done this on the computer, it'll make it a lot easier for you to go back and make corrections, maybe some additions, move some things around, and then do your final draft, okay? That's the big one in here. The rest of this then just continues with a focus on some different types of literature. I think there might even be some writing assignments in here, some vocabulary, but the big assignment comes at the beginning of this pace 11:30, doing the novel or short story. All right, so get your head in the game before you start, and be thinking about that even as you're reading through the book of what kind of a story you might like to write.